We like to believe that our experience of the world is objective, that what happens outside of us is clearly separate from what happens inside our mind. Reality feels solid, while imagination feels optional, something we can turn on or off. But if this separation were truly clear, our inner experiences would not affect us so deeply. A thought would not change the heartbeat. A memory would not tighten the chest. An imagined scenario would not produce fear, excitement, or relief in the body. And yet, it does. This is the first quiet clue. The brain does not wait for reality to act before responding. It reacts to interpretation, to images, meanings, and expectations that arise internally, often without permission or awareness. What we experience is not simply what happens, but how the mind represents what happens. And in that representation, the line between what is real and what is imagined begins to blur. For the brain, images come first. Facts arrive later. When something is imagined vividly, a conversation, a future event, a feared outcome, the brain does not pause to verify whether it is happening now or only being pictured. It responds to the image itself. Neural circuits activate as if the experience were real. This is why simply thinking about a stressful situation can raise the heart rate, why imagining success can create a sense of confidence. The brain is not reacting to the world directly, but to the internal representation of it. From a neurological perspective, perception and imagination share the same pathways. The brain processes them using similar mechanisms. To the system, a clear mental image is enough to trigger a response. This is not a flaw. It is how learning, planning, and survival work. But it also explains why thoughts have such power over our experience. Even when nothing has actually happened yet, the body follows the brain's signals without questioning their source. When the mind interprets something as real, the body responds accordingly, regardless of whether the trigger came from the outside world or from imagination. This is why an imagined threat can cause muscle tension, shallow breathing, and a surge of stress hormones. The nervous system prepares for action as if danger were present. In the same way, imagining a calm or positive experience can slow the breath and relax the body. From the body's perspective, there is no distinction between an actual event and a vividly imagined one. It reacts to meaning, not to facts. What matters is the signal it receives from the brain. This connection explains why repeated thoughts shape long-term states. When the same imagined scenarios are replayed again and again, the body learns to stay in a constant mode of tension or ease. Over time, this becomes a baseline, even when nothing is happening externally. Memory is not a recording of the past. It is a recreation. Each time a memory is recalled, the brain activates patterns similar to those that were present during the original event. Emotion, sensation, and meaning are brought back online, as if the experience were happening again, not fully, but enough to influence the present moment. This is why past experiences continue to shape current reactions. The body responds to remembered danger with the same tension it once needed. The mind reacts to remembered failure with hesitation, even when the situation is different. From the brain's perspective, the past is not over. It exists as an active pattern that can be reactivated at any time. And when it is, the brain does not label it as memory. It treats it as experience. This is another reason the line between real and imagined remains unclear. To the brain, both are simply patterns of activation, and both can shape how we feel and act now. Experiments in neuroscience and psychology reveal something striking. Mental rehearsal activates the brain in almost the same way as physical action. When a person vividly imagines performing a task, the neural networks responsible for that task begin to fire, even though the body remains still. This is why athletes use visualization to improve performance. Musicians mentally rehearse pieces. Surgeons imagine procedures. The brain learns through representation, not only through direct experience. To the nervous system, imagining an action is a form of practice. Studies have shown that people who only visualize training can still improve strength, coordination, and accuracy. The changes may be smaller than with physical repetition, but they are real. The brain adapts as if something actually happened. This provides clear evidence. The brain does not strictly separate imagined experience from real one. When imagination is detailed and repeated, it leaves a measurable imprint, shaping skill, confidence, and readiness in the same neural space where real experience lives. One of the clearest demonstrations of this principle is the placebo effect. When a person believes they are receiving a treatment, the brain can initiate real physiological changes, even if the treatment itself contains no active substance. Pain can decrease, symptoms can improve, the body can begin healing responses. These effects are not imagined in the casual sense. They are measurable, observable, and repeatable. The belief alone is enough to activate the brain's regulatory systems. From the brain's perspective, expectation is information. If the mind is convinced that help is arriving, the nervous system responds as if it already has. Chemistry changes, perception shifts, the body adjusts. This does not mean belief can replace medicine in every case, but it proves something fundamental. The brain reacts to meaning and expectation, not just to physical input. Once again, what is imagined and what is real follow the same internal pathways. The same mechanism that allows imagination to heal can also create suffering. When the brain repeatedly imagines danger, failure, or loss, it reacts as if these threats are real, even when they exist only in thought. Negative scenarios trigger the brain's survival systems. Stress hormones are released. Attention narrows. The body prepares for impact. And because these reactions are meant for short-term danger, maintaining them over long periods becomes exhausting. This is why chronic worry can feel more draining than real challenges. The brain does not recognize that the threat is imaginary. It only recognizes the signal. And when that signal is repeated, the nervous system stays on high alert. Over time, imagined problems begin to shape real limitations. Energy drops, focus weakens, confidence erodes, not because reality is hostile, but because the brain has been trained to live inside a projected future that feels real enough to react to. Imagination itself is not the problem. It is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used unconsciously or deliberately. When imagination runs on autopilot, it often repeats familiar fears and worst-case scenarios. The brain treats these images as warnings, keeping the body tense and the mind defensive. In this mode, imagination works against stability and clarity. But when imagination is used intentionally, the effect changes. Visualizing calm situations, successful actions, or constructive outcomes can prepare the nervous system in a different way. The brain begins to associate future moments with safety, competence, and control. Because the brain does not clearly distinguish between imagined and real experience, intentional imagery can shape readiness, confidence, and emotional balance. In this way, imagination becomes rehearsal rather than rumination, a quiet form of training rather than a source of stress. The same mechanism that amplifies fear can also build resilience. The difference is not in the brain, but in how the mind chooses to use it. Once this is understood, thoughts can no longer be dismissed as harmless background noise. They are not neutral. They actively shape emotional state, bodily response, and behavior, even when no external event is taking place. This awareness changes the relationship with thinking. Instead of being carried automatically by every mental image or scenario, a pause becomes possible. A question appears. Is this something I want my brain to rehearse? The goal is not to suppress thoughts or control the mind through force. It is to notice what is being imagined repeatedly and to recognize its effect. What the brain practices, it strengthens. In everyday life, this understanding brings responsibility without pressure. Not the responsibility to think positively at all times, but the responsibility to choose which inner scenarios are allowed to shape the nervous system over time. Thoughts shape experience long before actions follow. Once this becomes clear, inner life stops feeling random and starts feeling consequential. You begin to notice how often the mind rehearses outcomes that never happen. Arguments, failures, imagined futures. Each rehearsal leaves a trace. The brain learns from repetition, not from accuracy. This awareness does not require constant monitoring or control. It invites a gentle shift in attention, a recognition that what is imagined repeatedly becomes familiar to the nervous system, and familiarity shapes response. Over time, this changes daily experience. The mind becomes less reactive, the body carries less unnecessary tension, and imagination begins to serve preparation rather than fear. Understanding that the brain does not clearly distinguish between imagined and real experience is not a warning, it is an invitation. An invitation to treat inner imagery with the same care we give to outer actions. The brain does not ask whether something is real or imagined before it responds. It reacts to patterns, images, and meanings. This is not a limitation. It is the foundation of learning, adaptation, and survival. Once this is understood, a quiet shift takes place. Inner experience is no longer dismissed as insignificant. Thoughts, memories, and imagined futures are recognized as active forces shaping how life is felt and lived. This does not mean you must control every thought or create perfect mental images. It means recognizing that what the mind repeatedly rehearses becomes familiar to the brain, and familiarity guides response. Your reality is not created by imagination alone, but it is deeply influenced by what the brain is trained to expect. And training happens not only through events, but through what is imagined again and again. When this becomes clear, imagination stops being something that happens to you and becomes something you can relate to consciously with intention and care.